So welcome back to this week's video, everybody. I've got a couple of little garden bits in this one. I'm making a mini herb garden. I'm going to show you how I constructed it if you want to have a shot at making it. And I'm going to gift it to one of my friends just as like a thank you. And I've got loads of dahlias. I'm a dahlia farmer now. I don't know what I was thinking when I was planting all of the seeds. So I'm potting them on, and I've got 18 dahlias sitting on my kitchen counter because it's still frosty outside. So I'm going to gift some of my gardening abundance. I'm also delighted to welcome back Miracle-Gro this year, and they're sponsoring this video, and I will be chatting about their peat-free compost range. You might have seen a lot of talk about peat-free in the likes of garden shows and online and in social media. So I'm going to be talking to you about the benefits of going peat-free and why it is kind of the direction that we should be taking in our garden. So I'm going to be talking about the peat-free range from Miracle-Gro in a bit more detail when I am potting up all my goodies behind me. I'm going to get straight into the video, and I hope you enjoy. If you are short on space, then why not make your own little DIY herb garden with my assistant, Pepsi. I'm going to share how I made a simple box planter. Now you can take this idea if you want to do like a window box, kind of like the same thing. I'm going to put the measurements to the wooden pieces that I'm cutting in the description box. You've got two side pieces cut the same size, then you have a bottom piece, and then you have the two smaller pieces for the ends, essentially creating a box. So you have 3 long pieces and 2 smaller side pieces. Again, check for the measurements in the description, but you can customize this and make it your own. I'm going to be using wood glue and my nail gun to secure this all together, but if you don't have that, don't worry, you can use some screws to screw it in, get someone to help you to hold it all together while you screw them in, or you can use some clamps as well. Once this is all secured together, and as you can see, the box shape is starting to form itself. Now, I did make a tiny mistake on the end where my piece was a little bit wonky, but I don't think you can tell. But that's the fun of woodworking. I'm also going to drill 2 large holes in the bottom. Now, I am going to be lining this box with some plastic bags to protect the wood, but I do want to add drainage holes because the last thing you want is soggy herbs in your herb garden. So do add some holes. You don't have to use as large holes as I did, you could just do some smaller drill holes. I am layering the inside of the wooden box with some reused shopping bags, and you can cut them to size. Just make sure you layer them and check for any gaps or holes in the bags before using them. You could also use your compost bag as well if you wanted to. I chose to stain the outside of my box. Now I will admit it is on the orangey side, but I just went with it. It did dry a little bit orange. I should have went for a darker or more ashy kind of tone. This is an antique pine wood stain, and I just did 1 coat overall. I just touched up some of the areas with a second coat, and I gave it a light sanding. I haven't sealed it with varnish yet because I think I've left the door open if I want to just add another stain in a darker colour. So let me know what you think. It kind of has an antique-y look, but it's a bit on the orange side for me. I'm going to be using the all-purpose peat-free compost from Miracle-Gro to line the box and then plant in my herbs. This peat-free compost is perfect for all plants, flowers, fruits and vegetables, and the Miracle-Gro peat-free compost is perfect for use in borders, beds and if you have any hanging baskets. This peat-free compost has hollow wood fibres in it, and they ensure that the optimum balance of air and water is in the soil to prevent it from getting too dense or waterlogged. This compost also has a smart release system, so only when the conditions are warm and moist will these granules that are inside this compost release plant feed, providing up to 6 months of complete nutrition for your plant. If you want to learn more about the peat-free range from Miracle-Gro, I'll make sure to pop a link into the description where you can find out more information on the range. I'm going to be taking herbs and plants that I already have in my garden to pop into the herb garden because I have some that have just kind of grown so big and I can divide them, and I love how gardening is just abundance. Me and my friends, we swap seeds with each other. We kind of have this little garden community going on, and my neighbours as well. So I love that I can thin out my borders but also give it away and spread the joy of gardening. I took out a few pieces of mint from this bed because the mint was starting to take over, which it is notorious for doing. So I popped in mint, I popped in some fennel, I had some basil grown from seed, and I also popped in a tiny bit of parsley as well. Now these will eventually outgrow this herb garden, but as you're kind of like taking cuttings and using it in cooking, and also the mint is good for tea, but also for the mojitos. Summer, I see you. Fresh mint in the mojitos. So as these outgrow, you can just replant and reuse the little herb garden, but it's nice if you do have small space. To add a little bit of decoration to my box, and so it's not looking too plain, I wanted to add a little bit of personality to it because I am going to be giving it to one of my friends. So I wanted to print off something that was a little bit personal, and I know how she loves Ginny Joes. So I used my vinyl cutter to cut out this vinyl, and I'm just sticking it on. And this is the removable vinyl by Cricut, and I'm just sticking it on the box to add a little bit of personality. So next I wanted to plant some indoor flower seeds. I have never grown indoor plants, let alone indoor plants from seeds. And if you saw my previous plant haul video, you would have seen that I picked up some indoor plant seeds. So I decided to give it a bash. They germinate much longer than like outdoor plants. So it will probably take me all summer to grow these. So I have 3 different varieties, and I'm just popping them into these small clay terracotta pots that I got in my local garden centre. And for once I am writing what they are on a lollipop stick. You'll know that I am really bad at labelling my plants, and then it's a bit of a guesswork for the rest of the year until I see what grows. So I'm planting 3 different varieties, and I will share my progress with these as they grow, hopefully grow, throughout summer. My last job in the garden for today is transplanting my dahlias. They were so slow to germinate in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they just started to grow. I'm using recycled pots to pot on my dahlias, so anytime I buy like a plant in the garden centre, I always hang on to the plastic pot because I like to just reuse them for whenever you're transplanting, or if you're gifting on your plants to people, which I will because I grew way too many dahlias. I don't know what I was thinking. Again, gardening and abundance. It just keeps on giving. When potting on your dahlias, I watched Gardener's World, and Monty Don was saying to make sure to hold it by the leaf and be really, really delicate with the root system. So don't be kind of packing it in really tightly. Make sure that there's lots of air for the roots, and it's not too squished in the pot. So that is what I did. I repotted them on and I gave them a nice drink. Now it's still really cold here, so I have them in the house, but this is what I have. I think Pepsi is going to join us. Hey P! Pepsi will be joining us. Pepsi has actually been giving me a fright because she has been in the vets recently because Pepsi's quite old, and the thing with old cats is they can get poorly quite quickly, so you have to kind of keep an eye on them. But as you can see behind me, she is back on her sass. All is good at the moment. So that is my corners in the garden where I have been pottering along. One of the things I love to do, and Karen loves to do it as well, is in the morning after you've kind of done your first batch of work and you need like, you know, that 10 o'clock break, and having a cup of tea or a coffee is needed, and pottering in the garden and just having a look, and it kind of makes me be a bit more mindful. I generally do it in the back garden because that's where the sun does be, if there does be sun. Going out with your cup of coffee, seeing what needs to be fed, seeing what needs to be like, not pruned, but you know, deadheading. Although there's not much at the moment, it's May, but I have a few ranunculus that I have to be kind of deadheading. So just having that kind of mindful moment in the morning where you're just kind of pottering about and seeing what shoots are growing. My herb garden was getting a little overgrown in the container outside. Also, I linked to the video if you want to make that raised bed. I made that last year when I was making carrots, and they were wonky. I learned a lot. And if you want to make a raised flower bed, I'll put a card here for you if you want to check that out. So I'd love to know if you have, I know it's been harder this year. I said it in a previous video that it's been harder to get into the garden this spring because I think we've all got a bit of, I think the word is languishing. That was a word I heard during the week. So it's kind of like that in between where you're just meh. I think the name is languishing, but it's been harder to get out because the weather here hasn't been as good. It's been hailstoning in May, so I have been slower getting into the garden. Those power washing in the pots doesn't have the same joy as it did last year, and I've noticed from chatting to a lot of you guys, you're kind of feeling the same, that, you know, it's just a bit harder this year. It's a bit slow to get going, but you know what? The garden, like, Mother Nature helps us too. You know what I mean? She has her back. I'm noticing all my perennials are starting to kind of come up unassisted. So I'm going to get on and start feeding them. Give them a bit of plant feed. Help them out. Yeah. So I'd love to know if you two have grown too many plants. It may not necessarily be dahlias. And then, like, everyone in Dublin is getting a dahlia. But I'd love to know if you have any corners in your home, whether it's indoor plants, outdoor plants, that you have a little mindful moment beside with your cup of tea in the morning. Also, Hermione and Mr. Carrington, I think, are also doing garden related videos with Miracle-Gro. So if you want to check them out, they are... There is a magpie fighting with Blondie on the wall. Jill? My door's open, so you'll hear all the birds outside. Blondie, get in. I've two magpies. They are so cheeky. I love them, but they cause murder in my garden. I've lost my train of thought now because that magpie causing murder. Yes, Hermione and Mr. Carrington are also going to be doing garden related videos, so just keep an eye on their channels. I love them guys, and you can have a little see. I know Mr. Carrington is doing something with his rooftop garden. I'm not sure what Hermione's doing. I love the surprise with Hermione. I think she's just so creative. I'm like, I don't want to ask her what she's doing with her garden, but I'll just wait and see. So you can keep an eye on their channels. If their videos have gone up by now, I will link them in the description box, or I'll pin them in a comment if you want to check out their videos as well. And they're also going to be using the peat-free range from Miracle-Gro. And also thank you to Miracle-Gro for reaching out and sponsoring this video. I'm delighted to welcome them back this year. I have older videos from last year where I have two videos where I collaborated with them, where I made a herb garden and a herbal tea garden. I still have some of those herbs in there, although I've moved them into the box. And I also made a tiered flower stand. If you want to check them out, I'll put them all in the description. Thank you so much for watching. You know the drill, cheeky thumbs up, and I'll see you all in next week's video.